All right, 14 minutes after 8. Can I say hello if you're joining us now? It's the AM show and it's time now for me to do my banner. Well, today we're talking water, which is of importance to all of us. I would urge you to listen closely, pay attention to the details, and then you can join me via phone later on. With your thoughts and your comments as well. But safe and sufficient drinking water along with adequate sanitation and hygiene definitely have implications across all Millennium Development Goals, from eradicating poverty and hunger, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health. You can talk about combating infectious diseases to ensuring environmental sustainability. The 2014 UN Water Global Analysis and Assessment of Sanitation and Drinking Water, they call it GLASS, focuses on the inputs and enabling environment which are needed to provide water, sanitation and hygiene to people around the world. And this morning we will be exploring that report and water and sanitation issues here in Ghana. Remember, just before the reading of the 2015 budget, the WaterAid also said something. They wanted an input on sanitation and environment, really. So we will find out from my guests whether they were satisfied with what they had. But my guest is Ibrahim Musa. He's head policy and partnership at WaterAid Ghana. And I want to say good morning to you, really, and thank you for coming.
Good morning, Mama V. It's a pleasure, and thanks to the Multi-TV team.
Yeah. All right. So global analysis and assessment of sanitation and drinking water calls for a need for more, smarter and better targeted money in the sector. How can this be done?
Yes, essentially, if you look at the caption of the report, the report is titled Investing in Water and Sanitation, Increasing Access and Reducing Inequalities. Precisely, the team could not have come at a better time than now. One, globally, 2.5 billion people today do not have access to basic sanitation. And when we talk about 2.5 billion, you can imagine out of about almost 7 billion, a little over population in the world, 2.5 billion do not have access to basic, sanitation. And if you were to talk about the country specifics, then you zoom into Ghana, our beloved country, and you will appreciate that as we speak today, only 14% of Ghanaians out of estimated 25 million people have access to basic sanitation, which means 86% of Ghanaians do not have access to basic sanitation. And close to 5 million people defecate in the open. And
that's a shame.
And that is a shame. And so this report, the GLASS report, basically highlights that. And importantly is the theme or title, Investing in Water and Sanitation. GLASS report is talking about investing in water and sanitation because investment is what is needed to accelerate progress.
So let me ask you, are we investing enough as a country?
For Ghana, especially with respect to sanitation, I would say no. And if you take water, we are relatively better. And when I say relatively, because even the GLASS report estimate Ghana water coverage a little beyond 87%. But I use bad because our national provider agencies like Ghana Water Company, which provides water for urban dwellers, and Community Water and Sanitation Agency, which provides water for rural and small town dwellers, cumulatively estimate that Ghana, as a country, our coverage for water hovers around 64% against the GMP. But because Ghana belongs to a committee of nations, we always will also respect the international statistics, but at the same time respect our national institutions, which means that for water we are better.
Really?
But even as we are better for water,
where I live, I'm an urban dweller. I don't get my water for Ghana Water, and I don't even know where they're bringing it from.
Absolutely.
Which borehole they're fetching the water from.
And that is where the GLASS report, also under the theme, it specifies that increasing access and reducing inequalities. Because whereas the GLASS report will have captured you belonging to part of the 87%, because of the methodology they use, simple asking you, do you have access to water? Somebody in your house will have responded yes. They do not go down deeper to ask, how do you get the water? And so our national statistics,
on paper, we're looking really good.
Absolutely.
But if we were to do a one-on-one with the individuals,
absolutely,
you see that we're doing rather very poor.
Yeah, and that is where the other aspect of the title of this report, reducing inequalities, is very important.
Okay.
And that is what is the case of Ghana. Even as we talk, in many parts of urban Accra, people don't have water. You are just given example of your area, which I don't know much, but I do know that a number of areas in Accra, in many urban areas, in Kumasi, in many parts of Takoradi, in some parts of Tamale, in some parts of Tema, the big urban areas, a lot of areas or part of it do not have water. But also even in rural Ghana, there are still some nook and crannies of rural Ghana. If you were to hit the road right down from Bunkpurugu Yoyo through to Funsi in the Wa East District and come to Shai Osudoku in Greater Accra, parts of the Kropong, some of them also do not have water. And relatedly is the fact that inadequate water supply also impact on sanitation, which is what is dire in the case of Ghana, and poor sanitation impact on health.
And I'm sure everybody would realize that that is what resulted in this cholera outbreak. Again, I would want to use shame here, because shame on us in 2014 that we're recording, cases of cholera. Yeah. That, we're sitting in debt, we're eating in debt, we're drinking dirty water, and we're surprised that there's a cholera outbreak.
Absolutely, and precisely the reason why a number of the water and sanitation agencies, both especially in civil society, including Water Aid and the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, spoke to the 2015 budget that even as we are relatively making progress in water in terms of coverage, sanitation is a dire situation. And so in the 2015 budget that is currently before Parliament and being debated by our respectable members of Parliament, we are saying that, look, they should, as a matter of agency, scrutinize our sanitation in our budget allocation, because we think that at this moment, the budget for sanitation is scanty. We have seen a lot of projects and programs underwater, to increase access. For instance, the Pong expansion, uptake point, the Teshinongwa desalination project, which has been, clearly outlined in the budgets with clear, indicators. For sanitation, it is not a palatable situation as captured now in the budget. And so we respectfully call on our members of Parliament to ensure that, look, the sanitation component of the 2015 budget is relooked to. Otherwise, in 2015, the story of cholera in 2014 will be revisited on Ghana,
and that be doubled.
And that will be a big shame to us.
But let me ask you about this sanitation day, which has been set. Did it help? The first exercise, has it helped?
Yes, for the sanitation day, is for us to place on record that we want to appreciate the efforts of Honorable Julius Deborah and the ministry for bringing the sanitation day. What is important about it is also that it is reawakening the communal spirit of our people and mobilizing our people for action, especially our traditional authority. The first one that was held in November, the 1st of November, what we saw was that communities made attempts, but we also have made statements around the fact that for the efforts that some communities made, they did not have the equipment, the machinery to even cut whatever garbage that they had collected to a designated place that could have been, either converted those wastes, into some form of reuse, or process it into some form of resources for use, or whatever could be done ultimately. And so, if Honorable Julius Deborah is listening, we are saying good morning to him and saying that, Honorable, the agent need for provision of resources in the form of machinery, in the form of collection pans and all that to support this very beautiful National Sanitation Day will help matters. But most importantly, for him to also take a critical look at the GLAS report and our national sanitation policies. You know, beyond the GLAS report, we have our National Sanitation Policy 2010, where government also make laudable, you know, commitments to fund the sanitation and hygiene, you know, subsector. We respectfully call on him to lobby Parliament to ensure that the needed resources are given to this 2015 budget for sanitation. Because
is it Parliament that he has to lobby, because they will not do the allocation? That's the ministry.
It starts from the ministry, and we are saying that from the scanty figures that we have, they need, because the budget is saying that there are some allocations that are hidden in some departments and agencies somewhere. And sometimes in the process of debating and all that, some of those departments that put those budgets under their jurisdiction for sanitation and hygiene, if they do not prioritize it, it may even end up being removed. And so scrutinizing each and every department that has some bit or remit over sanitation is very important. And pulling it together and ensuring that if even it is there, who knows, maybe even members of Parliament can even call for an increase. And that can help the cause of the country. All
right. As you were speaking, my attention was drawn to the fact that there's a headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic this morning that reads $85,000 e-waste recycling facility goes to waste at Agbogbloshie. Just a bit. A new e-waste recycling facility intended to transform the recycling of scrap metals at Agbogbloshie here in Accra is gradually becoming a white elephant. The facility, provided by the Blacksmith Institute, an international non-profit organization in collaboration with the government, at a cost of $85,000, is also to help transform the way recyclers work in one of the most polluted places here in our country. So talk about the fact that we've got a means to recycle. You know, once you were talking about the exercise itself, the initiative is good. People made attempts, and I like how you put it. People made attempts, but in the end, you don't have things to collect the rubbish in, so they are still left there for days. So you ask yourself, what kind of work was done then?
Absolutely,
you know, it's more like zero.
Absolutely.
And I think this story, a lot of attention has to be paid to it.
Absolutely, and of course, if we cast our mind back again to our National Sanitation Policy 2010. It makes provision for public-private partnership. And I guess this particular initiative in question could be part of that policy. But the question is, what was the mode of crafting this particular, you know, program? Which stakeholders were involved? And did the stakeholders appreciate their roles and responsibilities? You know, what specifically was the agencies that were responsible to, if you like, implement this initiative supposed to do? E-waste, if you look at the Accra, just even take Accra now, e-waste has become a major source of employment to our brothers and sisters. And on daily basis, you imagine, even around your offices, around some offices and my office, you see our brothers, you know, who move around, you know, with containers, you know, trying to capture, you know, materials to go and sell. And that's why we say that for now, waste should not be treated as a useless something, because waste can be turned to wealth.
And as we speak, we're also bringing you visuals from Agbogbloshie. You see my colleague there, Gifty Ando, up here, a report that she did. But you see, I think the worrying, once we're bringing you these pictures, let's talk about it. There are children involved in this scrap dealing situation as well, which is not healthy.
Which is not helpful at all. And I'm sure if the Department of Social Welfare if Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, you know, if they are seeing these scenes.
But you see, these places are not hidden. When you go, you see the children.
Absolutely, and that is where the law must work, because even our law fronts upon this, because these children, interestingly, are supposed to be in school. I don't know which particular day in the week it was, but if it were even one of the weekdays, schools are in session. They're supposed to be in school. If it is even weekends, you know, these children should be protected, because they shouldn't be going about because these are children. These are children, and so that's why I'm saying that if our agencies are watching these, you know, scenes, action needs to be taken, because it is not palatable.
So let me be on the NGOs for a while. You do a lot of advocacy. I mean, you talk, but what kind of action are you also really doing in terms of reducing? Because you've been hitting on the theme, reducing the inequalities.
Yes.
What specifically has WaterAid been doing?
Yes. That is a very good question. If you take WaterAid, since 1985, we have been in this country working in tune with national policies. At the moment, WaterAid invests in 14 local government authorities in the 3 northern regions. We work in Tambale metropolitan area. We work in Gushegu district. We work in Bongo district. We work in Boku West district. We work in Wa East district. We work in Wa municipal. In southern Ghana, we work in Afram Plains, north and south. We work in Brim North. You know, we work in Shai Osudoku. You know, and then we work in Accra metropolitan area. As a matter of fact, our work is in 3 major areas. We directly provide water services, and the technology options include water kiosks, extension of pipelines where possible, using the Ghana Water Company, you know, systems. And in most rural deprived areas where WaterAid, we have our mark, because we serve deprived and marginalized communities. We, depending on the context of the place, the geophysical studies and all that, we can provide boreholes or hand-dug wells which are potable, you know, and to rural communities. And since 1985, we can boast of reaching out to more than 100,000 people, you know, with potable water,
you know, and this
sanitation.
This is just one NGO.
Absolutely.
Why is the situation not better? Because you're doing so much work, and I believe that other NGOs are doing, you know, in their own area.
Absolutely.
And we have the Ghana Water Company. So why is the situation not improving?
This is a question that you and I will keep asking, but there are multiple reasons. One, if you were to take the population of Ghana as at 1990, compare the population of Ghana to 2000 towards to 2014, you can imagine the rate of population growth. As a matter of fact, if you come to urban Ghana, the rate of investment is not proportionate to the rate of population growth. As we speak, Ghana urban population is almost 52%. And projections are that by 2030, we'll be hitting possibly around 70% urban population. And if the rate of investment in service provision, you know, in urban areas does not commensurate or get proportionate to the population growth, it means there will be a big problem. And also in terms of approaches and tactics, for instance, the role of municipalities should be very central in service provision, especially for water and sanitation.
Do you see us planning ahead, or we're just sitting down and waiting?
That is where the challenge is, and that is where we keep calling on municipalities to prioritize water and sanitation, especially because if you look at local government budgets, talk about the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, talk about the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, talk about KMA, talk about the Kropon Municipal Assembly and all that, the proportionate spending on water and sanitation, if you take their composite budgets and their internal generated funds, it is just too little.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because it is also because of our history, where we are coming from. traditionally, water, sanitation, and hygiene, financing was thought to be donor, support, and national and local government didn't do much. In recent times, if you pick the GLAS report, we are told in the GLAS report that as we speak, donor funding for water and sanitation and hygiene is around 25% to 52%. In the case of Ghana, it may even be more. Granted that we are able to isolate loans that government of Ghana take, which they pay back, to the development partners, then that means that we are doing better. But if we were to look at generally the financing of the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector, especially with local government and our municipalities, is not encouraging. And that is where we think that our municipalities can do better. Because if we keep spending more on health and education, but water, sanitation, and hygiene has very close relationship, with health and education. If you invest more in education, in building schools, in building health centers, as a matter of fact, if the health centers do not have water, the doctor cannot perform any surgery. The woman who goes to deliver cannot deliver. If you build the schools without providing water and sanitation, when the child gets to school, the child cannot stay throughout the day to concentrate and learn. And so these are issues that when we talk about investing in water and sanitation, but most importantly, investing at the municipal level, is very crucial to see to it that we are approaching our development from purely a service, oriented development perspective, and not just infrastructure perspective with respect to provisioning. Because when we approach development at the municipal level from a service provision perspective, then we see things holistically and see how water, sanitation, and hygiene has relationship with other development sectors.
Okay, so I've got to ask you this just before we wrap up. Part of the 2015 budget, Water Aid, coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation and partners, called for a lot of focus on sanitation.
Absolutely.
Did you get it? Did Mr. Setekpe give you what you wanted?
Well, Honorable Setekpe, in the budget statement he read, which is being discussed now, presented some fine issues around water. And the picture is a bit clearer on water and where government, in terms of its vision, wants to go to water and then achieve the universal access by 2025 by government-owned plans. But sanitation, honestly, if Honorable Setekpe is listening and honorable members of parliament are listening
and watching,
sanitation is still crying. And we need to look at the budget.
So you're satisfied with the water bits?
Somehow, but the inequalities issues and the inequities issue, for which you even pointed out, is still a big problem. And so, for targeting for the water, especially the pond rehabilitation and expansion, we are also calling that attention should be paid to areas that are not safe, areas that are underserved.
I'll tell you my fears now. This is the plan for anybody who's hoping to make a lot of money. People are thinking, I want to build, get solar panels so that I don't have anything to do with electricity, Ghana electricity company, and I want to dig a borehole and get a pump to supply the water so I don't have anything to do with Ghana water. Is that a good thinking?
Honestly, I will advise people that don't hit that road because there are laws of this country. Ghana Water Company has laws on self-supply.
But you are not supplying me the water.
Well,
I have my money to dig my borehole. You are saying I shouldn't?
No, they are not saying you should not. There are laws. So if you want to dig your own borehole, because there are laws, because look at where we sat down and cholera hit us. The president couldn't sleep. The vice president couldn't sleep. And so if you are embarking on self-supply, Ghana Water need to know, Community Water and Sanitation need to know, Water Resources Commission need to know.
Okay.
Because one, they have to ensure that the water you are drinking is safe. And so they have to give you permits. and you have to undergo mandatory water quality test.
Is that a bureaucratic process?
It is not. If only you are patient to follow through. I don't think it is.
You see, it's the same thing. Well, I want to say thank you. I wanted to hear people's experiences with water, but I guess that's for another day. But for today, I want to say thank you, Ibrahim Musa, Head Policy and Partnership, WaterAid Ghana. Is there any plans? Is WaterAid up to something that you want to tell us about?
No, WaterAid for us, I think my country representative keeps saying this to our minister, that for WaterAid will continue to work in tune with national laws and policies, but at the same time we believe that the state has the responsibility to provide water and sanitation to its people. But as an international charity, our resources will continue to target where the need is, working in line with national policies, and ensure that Ghanaians have access to water. So for WaterAid, given what I hear from my country representative, we'll continue to collaborate with government, but the state has a responsibility to fulfill.
All right. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Up next, you can call it Boy's Voice at all per sec here on the AM show. Stay with us.